This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. I'm going to show how to make this zigzag herringbone scarf. And to do this, you're going to need a standard machine with ribber, or it'll work on a bulky machine with ribber. You need a yarn that is a good thickness for full needle rib. And you're going to need to have a cheat sheet. There are two groups of numbers on my cheat sheet. And on the left-hand side of the group, you see the numbers 1 through 50 here, and 51 through 100 here. And then I have groups of 20. So number 1 through 20, I'm alternating 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. Those are racking settings. When I get to 21, I'm alternating 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5 for 20. And that's all. And the reason I have a cheat sheet is if I get interrupted or the phone rings, I can refer to this. Now this pattern is several hundred rows long. Because the pattern is so long, there's so many rows of knitting, I wrote a second cheat sheet as well that I can refer to after I've done the first 100 rows or so. This cheat sheet just shows me the groups of 20 stitches and which two numbers I'll be alternating my racking pattern between. Here's the needle arrangement, starting with the machine in the center position, but on half pitch, so the zeros are close together. That center position, by the way, is racking number 5. I am working on needles number 15 left, all the needles on the main bed, over to 16 right. And on the ribber, I'm working from 15 left to 15 right. That's exactly the arrangement you're going to need for this to work. You set both carriages to the tightest tension for a typical circular full needle rib cast on, and you're going to do the zigzag row. So once my zigzag row is done, I'm going to hang a clothespin on the loose end. I'm going to put a weight and a comb on. And I like to use this little short comb because I only have 31 stitches on the main bed and 30 stitches on the ribber. And I'm going to use one large weight. You do need the weight. Then I'm going to set the machine for circular knitting to get the round selvage on. I'm going up to the tension 1 click before 1, so it's the tension I'd call 2 clicks, and setting the machine for circular, and then I'm just going to knit 3 rounds. I canceled the levers and buttons and set the machine to tension 3, and I'm just going to knit 2 rows. It's kind of a setup thing because I'm going to change it right after those 2 rows. I've set my row counter to 0, 0, 0. And for row 1, I'm going to be on racking number 4. So I am going to move the front bed by turning the racking handle so that I see 4 in the indicator. And then I'm going to also change the carriage settings. All I have to do with the carriage is put the ribber setting so that it will tuck when it goes to the left only. And then once that's set, you can leave that for the duration of the scarf. You won't be constantly changing the ribber settings. Now here's the routine for this first 20 rows. I knit to the left, I rack to 5, and watch how my ribber moves. And knit to the right, 4, knit to the left, 5, knit to the right, I'm going to keep doing this until I get to row 20. If you lose your place, if the phone rings, if a child falls down and starts yelling, "Mommy," you have your cheat sheet. When I get to row 20, that finishes the first section. Now I have a section that leans this way, then I have a section that leans this way. So when I finish my first section, on row number 21, the next row I'm going to knit, I can look at my cheat sheet and see that I must rack over to 6. So I've racked over to 6, and now I'm going to alternate between 6 and 5 for the next 20. So I'm just going to knit to the left, switch to 5, of course. Now the pattern repeats after 40 rows. I did 20 rows of 4 and 5, and then I did 20 rows of 6 and 5. I am now about to knit row 41, and for row 41 I need to go back to 4. So now I'm going to alternate between 4 and 5, and I'm going to continue to do this for a very long time. When it's time to bind off, I turn off the tuck and knit 1 row plain. Then I turn both carriages from 3 all the way up to 8. Then I knit across slowly. That's my loose row for the bind off. Then I'm going to take a contrasting yarn and knit circular. I've set my carriages for circular, and I've tied on a contrasting waste yarn. I'm going to pull it all the way down so that I have the pink showing instead of the purple. And I'm going to knit 20 rows of waste yarn, which will give me 10 rounds. And I'm just going to cut the yarn and take the scarf off the machine, and I'm going to do the bind off in my lap. To do the bind off in your lap, you want to work from the side that doesn't have the string over to the side that does have the string. So I need to begin over here, and what I do is I roll the scrap yarn down so that I can see all the stitches in the middle, and then I take a latch tool and I find the farthest end stitch, which I have to kind of open up to figure out, and it's this one. So take the farthest stitch, I grab the second farthest stitch, so second one, pull it through the first, and then the third through the second, and I just work myself across in this fashion all the way over to the other side, and I was just stopped to check and make sure that I was getting the correct stitches. So it's really got a rhythm to it. You get the stitch from that side, and then go get a stitch from this side and work your way across in that fashion, and I will finish that up off camera. When I get to the far end, I pull the loose end of the garment yarn through, and then I just have to unravel this waste yarn. I'll have an end or two to hide, and then I can show you the scarf. I finished those ends, and I've draped my zigzag scarf over my knitting stand so that you can see the effect. I'd like to zoom in close too. It's got a wonderful herringbone-like texture to it and very prominent zigzag effect. So it's quite a fun little scarf and really different from your average machine knitting project. As a person who is interested in machine knitting, I'd like to send you to my blog. Now, if you're a beginner, I have links over at my blogs to a complete beginning course on machine knitting. I also have a beginning course on using your ribber that goes with your machine knitter. I have garter bar lessons over there, lots and lots of free patterns and free projects and videos, photos, and essays on machine knitting. That's over at diananatters.blogspot.com.